Welcome to the next part of my advanced full bullet character matchup guide. Today's video will feature Yellow Shigaraki. Now, Yellow Shigaraki is a very ground-based character who will attempt to punish you while you are on the ground rather than in the air. And a lot of full bullets moves require him to be on the ground at some point during them. Beta requires you to land on the ground in order to get the effect from it, and Gamma requires you to also be on the ground in order to gain the effect from it. However, if you play full bullet properly and manage your beta gamma cancels, the amount of time you'll have to spend on the ground can actually be quite short in certain scenarios and give you plenty of time to rack up large amounts of damage on the Shigaraki without him being able to injure you that much. Yellow Shigaraki will struggle to injure opponents that are in the air due to his very ground-based game, as his alpha only does a little bit of damage and has a very weird trajectory, so it is often not worth going for it to hit an opponent that is in the air. For beta, however, beta is much better at hitting aerial opponents. However, it still isn't super fantastic, as it has a lot of startup lag on it, a lot of ending lag on it, and will only do about 80 damage, as he will not be hitting the AoE part of it, as you will be in the air, so it will fly past you. It is worth noting that you will be staggered by beta if you are in the air, which can make your combos a little tough and ruin your escape plan. However, Shigaraki will tend to not want to go for a beta on an opponent that is in the air, as this will often just result in a wasted beta for the Shigaraki. Shigaraki's goal will likely to be to catch you while you are on the ground and punish you for that. Shigaraki's gamma can also be used to hit opponents that are in the air. However, it has the same issue. If it hits an opponent that is too high in the air, gamma hold will not connect. The AoE part will not connect. It will still stagger you, but the AoE part will not connect for the damage, and you will have the ample opportunity to punish him for going for that. Now, there is one thing that is worth noting, is that Shigaraki has a combo that that high-level Shigarakis will potentially use, and that is Gamma into Beta. Keep in mind, I do not own Yellow Shigi, so I am not too great at these combos, but I do know that they are a thing, and he can do this to you while you're in the air as well. It will not do as much damage as showcased there, since for it to get that maximum damage, the AoE part of the beta needs to connect, and that will not connect on an aerial opponent. Assault Shigaraki will struggle hefty at doing high amounts of damage to aerial opponents, as that alpha's trajectory is really bad for hitting opponents that are in the air, and the damage on the rock part is only like 50. Beta will have an easier time, as it's a bit more of a straight trajectory, and it will also have a higher damage and cause a slight stagger. This makes beta pretty decent at that. And then for gamma, using gamma in the air will do some damage, but not a lot. And if Shigaraki uses it to hit you while you are too high up, the AoE part will not connect unless he hits you at like a lower point in your jump. It is worth noting that Shigaraki has the combo Gamma into Beta that can be done against aerial opponents. However, the damage will not be as crazy as seen there. It will often yield, I want to say, about 200 to 250 damage, depending on levels. Overall, Assault Shigaraki's goal will likely to be to catch you while you are on the ground and beat you in the medium range or close range combat. Important things to worry about when facing against Assault Shigaraki is Alpha. Alpha has high amounts of damage that he can easily spam and hit large amounts of hits for if he places it properly. And it also does go through Gamma, or go through your full bullets wall. Of course it does. Another thing that might be worth keeping an eye out for is Beta. Beta will stagger you even while you are in your moves, such as the startup of your Beta and the startup of your Gamma. This is because Full Bullet doesn't have armor on either of these moves, so a lot of things that do a stagger will stagger him out of it, as showcased there. Overall, the beta can be quite tough to deal with in the medium range, as it will stagger you and do tons of damage. However, it is not too bad to deal with, since you can block it with Gamma, and as showcased earlier, Shigaraki will often not want to go for betas against aerial opponents. It is worth noting that if Shigaraki lands a beta on your wall, it will hit you if you are standing on the wall or near it. However, it will block the rock part from landing and give you plenty of time to do a jump in the air in order to potentially try and gain the advantage upon Shigaraki, since he is particularly bad at landing consistent damage against opponents that are in the air. Now, another thing that you would want to keep in mind when facing against Yellow Shigaraki is his Gamma. His Gamma, once again, also causes a stagger, meaning that it can be quite tough to punish one when he goes for it. Sometimes you can land the heal before hitting Shigaraki, however, I have found this to be quite rare and often not worth going for, as it doesn't really happen when the Shigaraki isn't a bot and is actually facing you from using good angles. And they will often have better timing than what is showcased here. Yeah, I don't know how that first hit didn't hit me. Maybe it's just because of training mode is weird. But usually what happens whenever Shigaraki goes for a Gamma is that he will stagger you out of beta like that. This makes landing consistent punishes on him in the melee range sometimes fairly difficult, and if he has his Gamma up. Now, if he has his Gamma on cooldown, or you notice a Shigaraki is trying to save his Gamma in order to escape from fights, then fighting this character in close quarters will be quite easy, since his only other option that is sort of melee focused that would be effective against you would be his beta, and that has a large amount of startup and ending lag on it. He can use it to stagger you into a potential beta into alpha combo for large damage, but it requires him to land the beta, and if you have your beta cancel Gamma timings on point, you will not be standing still for as long as he will likely be expecting. You will likely be flying around him and dealing consistent damage against him, while he will often have little choices as to what to do in the fight. Shigaraki is overall a very powerful character, and you would want to try to avoid fighting him when he is at a higher point than you and elevation, as his moves are very prominent when using from above. Now, fortunately, Full Bullet has one of the best vertical mobilities in the entire game by looking up and using Gamma. So, fortunately, he will often not be able to keep height on you for long unless he plays properly and has a high ground advantage from the beginning of the fight. If Shigaraki is facing you on an even playing field, it will often become alpha trading as the solution to the fight, or depending on the distance, you could potentially go for Gammas into the air and try to land alphas down below. This can be very effective at dealing with Assault Shigaraki too. Just overall, keep in mind that Assault Shigaraki is a very potent character and will be able to deal hefty damage to you, and how a lot of your moves will force you to be on the ground for a startup. So he will often be able to punish your moves with alphas, even from a distance, even if you are not focusing him, and will often land consistent damage on you before the fight even begins. Just keep in mind that Shigaraki's Gamma only has 2 charges, and keep in mind where he's using it. If you notice he has used his second Gamma, he will not have it for a little while, and you'll be able to punish him for this accordingly. Another thing that I'm going to mention about Gamma is that if he uses it to try and run away, it doesn't carry his momentum at all. This means that if Shigaraki uses a Gamma, he will be going straight downwards unless he uses a second Gamma charge. That, or he will use a beta in order to air stall a little bit. He can use Gamma into beta, and this will keep him in the air for longer, or he could potentially go for a gamma in another direction in order to try and throw off your trajectory. Overall, most shigarakis will likely be going for something like this, which leaves it fairly easy to tell where he went, and in order to punish him while he is in the air. Gamma's trajectory is straight, so as soon as you see which direction he's going, aim a little bit ahead of it, and try and hit him with your alphas while he is running away. I don't think there's much more to state on the Assault Shigaraki matchup. Fighting him indoors can be quite dangerous. I would not recommend doing that, as his alpha and beta will often cover entire rooms and essentially cause a zone of denial. I would probably give the full bullet versus Assault Shigi matchup about a 50-50, since their mobility can be rather comparable at times. Assault Shigi's goes a little bit further of a distance, however full bullets goes much higher. This means that full bullet will have an easier time taking high ground on Assault Shigi, which is something Assault Shigi definitely doesn't want to happen. Assault Shigi would likely want to try and keep high ground, or face you on an even level. Full bullet can go up in the air at any point, and essentially make himself immune to a lot of Assault Shigi's attacks, and full bullet can also subsequently come down with a very powerful beta AoE in order to hit him and maybe his teammates too. Overall, I would give the matchup about a 50-50, as it is really dependent on where the fight occurs and what the levels are in other scenarios like that. Overall, try to not let him get free damage on you, and try to keep the pressure up on him. Potentially taking advantage of his mobility being quite predictable at times could be also very prominent, and if you notice Assault Shigaraki gets too greedy with using his gammas to pursue you, you can easily punish him with a beta or alpha on his potential gammas. And if he runs out of gamma charges, he is left very, still, and I guess is a good way I could explain it. And it often means that you can punish him very heavily with beta or alpha while he doesn't have his charges up. There isn't much more to say on this matchup, so I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. Keep in mind that next video will be all for one, and I will be uploading that at some point in the near future, so stay tuned for that.